I've made 60,000 cold calls, and in the next 15 seconds, you're gonna hear a real life cold call I made to a prospect yesterday. And we're gonna break down the opener in today's video with 3 data-backed Gone statistics that prove why it's the best cold call opener and how it's gonna help you set more meetings on the phone today.
Hi, this is Lou.
Hey Lou, this is Trent from D&D Wholesale. How have you been?
Good, Trent.
That's great to hear. The reason I was giving you a call, Lou.
The interesting lesson I've learned from making so many cold calls, and it's actually validated by this Gong visualization, is that if you use the wrong sequence of words in the first 15 seconds, you are guaranteeing that you will lose the cold call. You will most likely get rejected. And every so often you'll get what I like to call body bag. And this is when the prospect's rude to you, hangs up, and you leave the call questioning your existence. But if you use the talk track that I'm gonna break down for you here today, it's putting you in a position to win the cold call opener, which is going to increase your chances of having a successful call significantly. The cold call opener that I use to find success selling software and that I now use in an entirely new industry selling medical supplies to an entirely new buyer, which will work for you no matter if you're in B2B, B2C sales, whatever you're selling. Hey prospect, this is Trent from insert your company name. How have you been? Boom, it's as simple as that. If you use that sequence of words, it will guarantee that you are able to then get into what I like to call the monologue value phase, where you go into the reason you're calling them, and then eventually you'll have the opportunity to give your call to action, whether it's you trying to close them on the call for more transactional sale, or you trying to sell time, which is just simply setting up another meeting. And this is what I did in software sales. So let's break this down even further. And the first thing you need to know is that prospects need 3 pieces of information in order for you to quote unquote nail the cold call intro. Prospects need to know who you are, why you are calling them specifically, and what you want. So as you think about this cold call intro, hey prospect, this is Trent from insert company name. The reason I like to use this intro is if you've ever seen the Jake from State Farm commercials, he's like, hey, insurance, this is Jake from State Farm. And it always just felt catchy to me. And I think it resonates. So you always start out, hey prospect's name, this is Trent from insert your company name. How have you been? So you've addressed them directly, you've told them who you are, and then you say, how have you been? So as we dive even deeper on the how have you been question, this is what we like to call a pattern interrupt. So rather than the prospect immediately thinking, oh, this is a telemarketer, this is a solicitor, they're here to sell me snake oil, you say, hey, how have you been? And you sound like you want to be there and you sound genuinely curious about the state of their life since the last time you spoke with them. And they're gonna think, have I met this person before? How do I know them? Oh, I'm doing well. How are you? Or I'm doing well. Who are you? And that's all you can ask for to advance in the next stage of the cold call. Gong's data, based on listening to tens of thousands of calls, actually validates that the how you've been question increases your likelihood of having a successful cold call by 6x. So just simply by saying, hey prospect, this is Trent from your company name. How have you been? This will disrupt their pattern in their brain, and they will begin to question who you are, what you want, and then this will then unlock the next phase of the call. So you say, okay, good. Now you need to give them why you're calling them, and more importantly, what you want. You then get into, well, hey, the reason I'm calling you is, psychologically, they're still on guard. And by giving them, hey, the reason that I'm calling you is that I'm following up on a recent email I sent you. The reason I'm calling you is that I noticed that you oversee HR. Humans crave reasons, even if they're not particularly strong reasons. So as soon as you get into the reason, they are immediately listening up to you. And I hear so many poor cold call examples where the caller says, hey, is this a bad time? Hey, this is a cold call. Do you want to hang up? Hey, I know this is a cold call. I know I'm calling you out of the blue. And then you get into this monologue. They're instantly confused. So you just need to work in the very simple phrase, the reason I'm calling you is, and then you can make up whatever you want. The lowest level is, hey, I'm following up on a recent email I sent you. Does my company name ring a bell? Hey, I'm following up on a recent email. That's what I said at the very beginning. But as I started to up level and become a master at cold calling, you then start to say, the reason I'm calling you is, oh, I noticed that you oversee this title and we help folks in your position achieve XYZ. XYZ are outcomes. You are speaking in terms of results, what you are actually going to help their business achieve. You are not there to sell them how great your new AI large language model solution is. They do not care about features. unless you are calling a very low-level manager or perhaps director that would actually own the program day-to-day responsibilities. But if you are calling VPs and C-levels, you need to speak in terms of strategic results or business outcomes. We are here to help you make more money, save more money, or mitigate risk. So think about how those three outcomes reflect in terms of your actual solution, especially when you consider actual customers' results. So go into the reason you're calling them. They crave an understanding of why you were calling them specifically and what you want. And when you are going into your reason, when you're going into your monologue, you have two different options. And I want you to think about those options in terms of talk time. The data suggests that the longer you talk, the better. This is called taking the burden. So when you're talking upwards of 55, 60%, 65% of the cold call, you are in a way pushing your agenda and removing the risk of putting the ball in the customer's court where they actually take you to a place that you don't want to be. This is what leads to so many objections. People are always so worried about, well, hey, how do I overcome the objections? I don't really experience that many objections on the phone because I am controlling the phone call in the direction of the phone call. I want to say, hey, this is Trent from insert company name. How have you been? Okay, boom. The reason I'm calling you is go into your value prop, and the longer you talk, the better. And then you eventually need to get into the call to action. The other option for you is to go into a quick question, and this is what I like to do as well. So for example, I would sell to HR people, and as you think about what does an HR person care about? They care about the employees being retained, the employees being happy, productive. Hey, the reason I'm calling you is I noticed that you oversee HR. We typically help folks in your position to increase engagement, retention, productivity. Any of those outcomes top of mind for your team today? Oh, well, yeah, we actually care about retaining our employees. Well, perfect, I figured you did. The reason I'm calling you specifically is we helped XYZ company in your space, da-da-da-da-da-da. Let's set up a brief introductory call to talk about your priorities and how we can help. How does Tuesday at 3 p.m. work? Okay, boom. See what we've done there? We've controlled the pace, we've controlled the monologue, we've given them a strong reason for our call, and we're instantly going into the call to action. And this is as simple as cold calling actually is. And many of you are now thinking, okay, well, this will work for me. This is all good. Don't give in to your fear. The fear of making the call is actually more excruciating than the fear you would potentially experience as a result of actually being rejected or actually being hung up on. Everything you want is on the other side of fear. So start by thinking about, well, what do you actually want? If you don't know what you want, then you're not gonna have very much motivation to call. And then as you think about what do you want, how do you get what you want? Okay, well, I need to make more calls. It's purely a numbers game. Okay, now next, what is preventing you from getting what you want? And most likely this is just the desire to be consistent and actually pick up the phone each and every day. Okay, well, how will I know when I've gotten what I want and what's important about getting what I want? So you need to think about those 5 questions in the context of your situation, your reality, your career right now, because if you cannot answer them, then you will constantly face the pressure and the resistance and the concern and that feeling of being on a raft out at ocean with no one coming to save you when you're sitting in your home trying to make cold calls all by yourself. It's hard to rev up the engine each and every day. This is why these questions and answers are so important for you to think about and actually write down in your own situation. If you found value in today's video, I've linked a one-on-one coaching link in the description below. I like to work with people personally, learn more about your situation, and share with you what I've learned so that you can hopefully be more successful and start making more money today. So I'd love to speak with a few of you this week, next week, whenever makes sense for us to talk. And of course, if you'd like to support the channel, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe now for more sales, prospecting, and cold calling videos.